Active travel in that definition is really anything which isn't travel by vehicle.
Active travel is any sort of mode of transport where you're active essentially. So breaking it down, that's generally walking, cycling.
Just alternative modes of transport that don't rely on cars essentially.
But as well as it being the infrastructure, it's an opportunity to make a choice. Putting in quality active travel infrastructure, walking and cycling routes, that can be used easily, will allow people to make the choice to use those modes rather than get in the car for short journeys.
I'm a keen cyclist anyway, so I have a particular interest in the sort of active travel side of things, which is obviously becoming more to the fore at the moment. Historically, cyclists have been something that you sort of tolerated on the highway, whereas now there's a much bigger drive to try and promote walking, cycling and bus use. There's huge benefits for it from a health perspective.
Really, the benefit of active travel is that, well, there's numerous benefits. Of course, there's the environmental benefits in terms of getting people out of private cars and reducing the air quality impact and reducing emissions, but also sort of the health and well-being benefit that you get from active travel. So just going out and commuting to work or getting out for a half an hour walk or cycle can have a huge positive impact on both your physical and mental health. So yeah, I think it's really important to encourage active travel.
I think one of the key things, and this is something which shapes our design approach, is we don't look to encourage use of these facilities by confident cyclists. We look to encourage the use by people who might not cycle at the moment, or even by children.
But even from a perception, if your kids are just used to jumping in the car and just being transported from one place to the next, then that's going to be what they do going forward.
The key thing is trying to encourage new cyclists, whether that be children or other adults who don't currently cycle. So we try and put ourselves in their perspective, and we try and develop solutions and interventions which would make cycling appeal more to them. We'd look to connect locations, how we can encourage people to travel from their home locations to their place of work, and what measures might be needed to connect those two places. Similarly for kids that travel from home to school, how do the facilities need to tie into that journey, and what's the best route for them? I think that's a really, really key point, and that's something that comes out in the Active Travel for Wales guidance.
If we can reduce the number of cars, then it has air quality and emissions benefits, but also just makes it an more attractive area, which can only be a positive, I think.
It's quite a challenge at the moment with perception of things. So we're now trying to take road space away to give it to pedestrians and cyclists, but your drivers don't appreciate that. And if their journey is delayed or more congested because you've taken away some infrastructure, that can be very frustrating for people. It's not as straightforward as you might think to be able to satisfy the requirements of these standards, whether they be standards or guidance documents. And particularly in an area such as this where you've got geographical constraints, there's some hills, there's some gradients, there's all sorts of issues, and also trying to accommodate new ways of thinking for cycle lanes and footway provision and that sort of thing within quite a constrained space can be quite a challenge. But equally, it's quite exciting, and if you can get it right, and you can really make a difference to a particular mode of transport.
We try and minimise impacts on things like on-street parking. We try and maintain access to properties wherever possible, because as aspirational as we want to be at our starting point, as we go through our designs, we have to make sure they're practical and they're going to be deliverable at the end of the day.
There's a number of challenges, but actually most of the clients are already trying to overcome them. In large part, it's the distances involved. So if you're trying to connect smaller rural communities that are fairly well spaced apart, some people may be put off by simply the distance of travelling from one point to the next. But actually that's what the authorities are spending their money on. They're providing high standard dedicated facilities. So actually to get from one point to the next, yeah, you might think it's a long way, but actually once you try it and once you've got access to the equipment and the routes, it doesn't take quite as long as people think. Most of the local authorities are already, they're way in front of this. They're working on solutions. They're working on ways of trying to make these things more attractive.
One of the more challenging aspects of delivering active travel schemes is that we are often confined to the highway boundary.
So trying our best to sort of get a compromise where you develop both the highway network and you develop the sustainable infrastructure, let's say. Again, it's quite a challenge, but it's quite rewarding when you see people actually using the things that you've designed.
Sometimes that can be a real challenge to try and squeeze a compliant cycle solution into the existing highway corridor. That means that we need to be quite innovative and quite creative in what we're doing. And that has led in a number of cases to very, very innovative solutions coming forward, which meet both the cost requirement but also that design requirement as well.
Here is a bit challenging because, as I said, some of the distances involved can be pretty significant. But if there can be a link or a connection with bus services and walking, or bus services and cycling, so just having a network is the big driver. It's having facilities that connect to one another, and that really promotes alternative means of transport, really.
A lot of the work we're doing in those areas is fairly challenging in terms of the existing connections. The roads are quite high speed, not the type of environment we'd look to encourage cycling. So we're providing segregated off-route facilities, which make cycling more attractive, safer, and hopefully appeal to a large portion of those populations who might not be cycling at the moment. There's so much potential to roll out active travel schemes and facilities. And we've had a significant amount of experience in this. Arguably, we like to think of ourselves as the market leader in active travel in North Wales at the moment. And it really is a field that we do believe Pell Frishmen are leading the way at the moment.